Look, man, I don't understand why Notre Dame's not joining the conference because, of course, they would earn less money being in a conference like the Big Ten or the ACC than they would as an independent because of their NBC deal. But I do have a question. Doesn't Big Ten use NBC? I thought it was a perfect fit. Here's what I don't have respect for. The fact that they have a clause for the CFP that if they're in the top 12, they're automatically in. I will say, Notre Dame, you have no right to do that. This is just NCAA just being out of control. And do not get me started on pro players trying to go back to college to play ball. We saw guys like, I probably shouldn't say Antonio Brown's name, and Juju Smith-Schuster in their respective universities going back to school just to get the degree, not to play ball. That's the only reason you should come back to the college, just to finish your degree, not to play football. If someone sues the NCAA, I literally am going to give up on that athletics association. Because if they get sued, they have no shot. But thankfully, the Big Ten and the SEC are among some of the conferences that are not allowing pro players to go back to the college level. At least somebody's doing something right. Enough about college football, let's get to the pros for this one. Welcome back to Grizzly Talks Football, ladies and gentlemen. We got the NFC Hot Takes for 2026 NFL season. If you missed the AFC version, I will put that at the end of the video for you to watch that as well. We're going to do the same thing, just north, south, east, west, and alphabetical by city. Let's not waste any time. Let's start with the NFC North and the Chicago Bears. Here's my hot take on Chicago Bears. I actually thought about this one thoroughly. Anyway, so here we go. The hot take is Ja'Day Walker becomes a 1,000-yard receiver. You probably don't know who Ja'Day Walker is, unless you're a Bears fan. He was a rookie last year, and sure, he had 87 yards and 2 scores in his first season, but one of those touchdowns actually came against Green Bay in the regular season, and probably one of the best calls of the NFL season, courtesy of Kevin Burkhardt. And of course, the famous Tom Brady call from this season, fade away. So yeah, he had 6 receptions the whole season, 2 of them being scores, which means, yeah, he's on the ups right now. I am making an absolutely outrageous prediction here, considering he is probably like wide receiver 3 or 4 in the whole depth chart. Oh yeah, he's wide receiver 4. But with DJ Moore leaving, and I'm no wish injuries on anybody, but if Rome Odunze and Luther Burden do end up getting injured, it could be a perfect opportunity for Ja'Day Walker to step up. He's definitely one of the more clutch receivers in the NFC North right now, and I think it is a genuine possibility. This is a scorching take, though. Trust me, I would know because I completely whiffed on that Jalen McMillan take last year. More on the Bucs later. Next up, Detroit Lions. I think most people are going to say Jahmyr Gibbs may be a 2,000-yard rusher, and Lions have the number 1 offensive line in the league, but I'm going to go a different route this time. I'm going to go defense here, and I'm going to say Aiden Hutchinson gets 20-plus sacks and wins Defensive Player of the Year. He has been a DPOY candidate for several years, always overshadowed by guys like Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. And Pat Surtain, for that matter. He is a very good pass rusher, I will say so myself. Definitely worth that number 2 overall pick. It's just he hasn't gotten over the hump of one of the top 5 edge rushers in the NFL. Oh no, like top 1 or 2. The only down year was 7.5 sacks, and that was when he was injured. And he is just coming off his best season as a pro thus far. And even at the age of 26, he still has plenty of time to get that illustrious DPOY award. It is a little insane considering the defensive line they currently have, but I think it's still doable. Just don't run into the Bears offensive line because, yeah, that would suck. Next up, Green Bay Packers. We're going to get a little hotter with this one. My hot take for Green Bay is Jordan Love struggles mightily this upcoming season and the Packers end up missing the playoffs. I know, it's actually insane. And no disrespect to Jordan Love, he has been solid throughout his entire career when he's been starting, I think since like 4 years ago. However, one big issue, he just had no receiver help whatsoever. I mean, unless you include Tucker Kraft, I mean, that's literally the best receiver in that receiving corps right now. And Kraft is a tight end. Yes, Josh Jacobs as well. He has a decent offensive line, but it's just no great receivers. And you know what that's saying about the quarterbacks? You know, with the right weapons, he plays well, but then when he doesn't have them, he struggles? That's what I think about Jordan Love right now. He has been solid, but he hasn't been elite. That's been the thing that's been holding him back. If they could get a wide receiver one, it would help, but I don't know. Maybe the egos could take over. This is also combined with a great defense. Let's say a Jordan Love could prove me wrong. And of course, finally, we have the Minnesota Vikings. This one can go crazy. For the Vikings, I believe Kyler Murray will prove himself to be a reliable QB, and the Vikings end up making the playoffs, saving Kevin O'Connell's job. Let's be honest, that hot seat is not going to get any cooler. It is scorching hot for KOC. Everyone's expected him to be this QB guru, but it's really not his fault that his hot seat is actually getting hotter. It's management. That's because of one player's name, Sam Darnold. You know, the guy who in his first year as a Minnesota starter because of J.J. McCarthy going down in his rookie year, you know, when we all thought he was actually going to be a top 10 pick worthy. Sam Darnold, first season start for Minnesota, ended up being a Pro Bowler and took the Vikings to the postseason. I know they lost that first game, but still made the playoffs. What happened the next year? Minnesota decided to let him walk. They had the money to afford him. They just let him walk because of the last 2 games that he had. That's it. And then, of course, he goes on to Seattle and wins a Super Bowl. Meanwhile, Minnesota is stuck with Kyler Murray. I call him Mitch at quarterback and 9. But what if Kyler Murray actually does better than Darnold's first only season with Minnesota? What if Kyler can get his career back on track, especially with somebody who was very talented with the quarterback position as Kevin O'Connell? Maybe Justin Jefferson has a quarterback again. The possibilities are endless, especially with one of the best defenses in the league and the Vikings. Brian Flores doing his thing over there, really going to depend on the offense. New city, from the desert to the cold in Minnesota. Let's see how Kyler Murray will do with his new team. Now we move on to the NFC South, of course, Atlanta Falcons at first. I nailed my hot take last year on them. I said their defense was going to be top 5 at sacks. How about second in the NFL? For this one, Jack Strand ends up starting the game for the Falcons at quarterback. This is pretty much before preseason week 3, so we have no idea what's going to happen. But through the first 2 games, Jack Strand has actually been impressive. Had a rushing touchdown in week 1 when we got blown out by the Broncos, and of course had 2 touchdowns and a blowout win over the Colts, passing and rushing. Right now, Jack Strand has a better preseason right now than Tua. Of course, Penix is still recovering from his ACL injury, so he's out for some time. But maybe, just maybe, if Tua doesn't work out and Michael Penix doesn't work out, maybe Jack Strand takes that QB1 job. He's been an ultimate underdog for a while, and you know, Matt Ryan's got to be thinking to himself, this kid kind of reminds me of a younger me. Don't you dare call him Matt Ryan. Give him a shot. Because maybe, just maybe, he might be the answer that we all thought was going to be Tua or Michael Penix. Next up, we got Carolina Panthers. This is going to be interesting, but here we go. Bryce Young struggles, Haynes King takes over mid-season and actually turns the Panthers into a 10-win team. I think every Carolina fan knows who Haynes King is now. I, of course, know him because he was a Georgia Tech quarterback. Before that, he was Texas A&M. But that Hall of Fame performance by Haynes King, it wasn't perfect, but it was actually pretty good. And the cherry on top was the game-winning touchdown as time expired in that Hall of Fame game against Arizona. I saw some headlines that said Haynes King outplayed Kenny Pickett, so we could potentially see Haynes King take that backup spot when the regular season rolls around. And maybe that leaves the door for Haynes to take over that QB1 spot if Bryce Young struggles. Had a solid season last year, led into the playoffs despite a losing record, but oh boy, it hasn't been consistent at all. Everybody's saying Bryce Young's going to be this bright future for Carolina. I don't know about that. Solid year for him, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback like a couple of others that were taking maybe a draft or 2 after him. But maybe Bryce Young plays well. I'm not sure. We'll see. Then we got the New Orleans Saints. Nailed that hot take. Oh yeah, by the way, that Ted McMillan take, that does not count. That wasn't even close to a hot take. For New Orleans, this is going to be a little tricky. This could really make Saints fans scratch their heads, but I think it needs to be said. So here we go. New Orleans Saints, Tyler Shough struggles much like Bryce Young, and Zach Wilson takes over that QB1 spot and actually does well under Kellen Moore after given another chance. Look, man, I'm still a believer in Zach Wilson. I'm sure a lot of you have already left that train right now. I am probably one of a few Zach Wilson fans that are still riding with him, hoping he gets another shot. I mean, for crying out loud, he was on the Jets, the same team Sam Darnold started with, and, they gave Sam Darnold some chances, and he delivered. Why can't Zach Wilson? Look, it was that 1 year that the defense was actually doing very well, but that was it. The defense, despite Quentin Williams and Sauce Gardner on that same team, it just didn't work out because everything else was just flawed. Combine that with his last year in New York having 13 offensive line sets, that does not help either. And preseason week 1 for him was a very big success. I know the preseason week 2 didn't go so well, but come on, nobody was playing well against the Rams on that week. But maybe, just maybe Tyler Shough's rookie season was a fluke. Maybe he wasn't as good as we thought. And that would be the perfect opportunity for Zach Wilson to swoop in and take that job from him. He would have to beat out Spencer Rattler, but are y'all seriously taking Spencer Rattler over Zach Wilson? Come on! He can't even beat out Tyler Shough, and you're telling me Rattler should be QB2? Come on, let's be for real. Spencer Rattler did not have a good preseason so far. Zach Wilson was the only one of the two that actually had a good preseason week 1. And Zach is 27 as well. He has plenty of opportunities to get us that second chance that he is so desperately looking for. And of course, finally, we have the Tampa Bay Bucks. This is going to be an interesting one, but the 2026 Tampa Bay Bucks turn into the 2025 Atlanta Falcons. High-end talent, but horrible coaching, which leads to Todd Bowles finally being fired. I still believe it was a big mistake to keep Todd Bowles around. Like that playoff, next to the playoffs last year, should have gotten him the boot out the door. But somehow it didn't. You want to know why? Because he won a playoff game. But to be fair, he didn't really win that. That was Baker Mayfield just doing Baker Mayfield stuff. Bowles' game plan did not win that game against the Eagles in the playoffs that 1 year, a couple years ago. It was pretty much Baker Mayfield proving to everybody that he was a good quarterback. And he still is. The biggest insult was the offensive coordinator being Zach Robinson, so, oh boy, it's going to be a rough year in Tampa Bay unless they somehow, some way make the playoffs. Please don't. Please fire Bowles. Now moving on to the NFC East, we're halfway there. First up, Dallas Cowgirls. Brian Schottenheimer ends up not being a bad hire and ends up taking Dallas to the playoffs and a 12-win season. I'm very sure a lot of Cowboys fans and a lot of NFL fans have criticized the Brian Schottenheimer hire for a while because he was a part of the staff. But to be quite honest with you, his first couple years with the team, it has not been bad. Or maybe that was first year. I think so. So this is his second. But first year, man, it wasn't horrible. The offense was elite. It's just the defense sucked. And he's an offensive-minded coach. That's expected. And the biggest thing that I have a problem with is that Matt Eberflus is the defensive coordinator. But maybe that's a blessing. Eberflus sucked as a head coach. He sucked so much that he was the first head coach to be fired mid-season by Chicago. But maybe he would do better as a defensive coordinator. Maybe offense wasn't his specialty. He might be the piece that Dallas was looking for to make a playoff-bound roster. So let's see if Dallas can improve from that second worst defense in the NFL to maybe top 15. I swear some of these are just going to be absolutely horrible. Next up are the New York Football Giants. It's going to be a little interesting, but the big three as the young players, Jackson Dart, Cam Skadabu, and Malik Neighbors, end up bounding together, staying healthy, and make the playoffs and actually win the NFC East. Jackson Dart's now in his second year, Skadabu's in his second year, and Neighbors is in his second full season, third overall, because he got hurt last year. The biggest issue with that whole season for New York before Daboll was shown the door was because of injuries. Neighbors had I think it was an ACL tear. Scadaboo broke his leg, and Jackson Dart, he had some concussions and all that, but overall, he's just been playing with some high risk. The good thing about this hire John Harbaugh is that he actually dealt with a running quarterback. His name was Lamar Jackson. And Jackson Dart kind of plays like Lamar Jackson a little bit. I'm saying maybe Jackson Dart might be able to fit in that system, especially with two very solid running backs out there. Or is Tyler Tracy there? Oh yeah, he's still there. It's just Najee Harris is now on the team. So how about Cam Scadaboo and Najee Harris running through the middle? I mean, it kind of is a perfect match. And if some of the young New York Giants receivers that they ended up picking up in the last couple of free agencies and drafts end up stepping up, this could be a complete offense, especially with a solid offensive line. I'm not saying the season's going to be perfect, but maybe John Harbaugh was the missing piece that the Giants have been looking for. An accomplished head coach who's won a lot of games and also produced a 2-time NFL MVP. Let's see if he could do the same thing or even close to the same thing with the Giants. Oh yeah, and he also won a Super Bowl like 14 years ago. Moving on, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. This is going to be interesting. Here's my hot take for Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts ends up flopping this year, and Nick Sirianni ends up getting fired, and both of those people are not on the team by the end of this, or by 2027. Jalen Hurts does have quite a bit of accolades. I mean, he has a Super Bowl. He came close to winning MVP. I mean, he had some of the best rushing numbers for a quarterback in the past couple years, mainly because of one play called the tush push. However, throwing the football has been a little bit inconsistent. I mean, sure, he gets a lot of yards, and he's actually very efficient, throwing less turnovers. However, he's not throwing as many touchdowns, mainly because the offensive line is so good that they really just need to run the ball, either with Barkley or through the tush push with Jalen Hurts. But now that the tush push has been banned, it's going to be interesting to see how Philadelphia will find the loophole to get those rushing scores. So maybe this season is his worst season, maybe since his rookie year. Maybe Sirianni can't use the offensive success and the defensive success to keep his job alive. Maybe both of them are out of nowhere gone. Sirianni gets fired, maybe Jalen Hurts gets traded. If this happens, this could be dark times for Philadelphia. And of course, we got Washington Commanders. Here we go. This one's going to be a little bit obvious, but Jayden Daniels proves his rookie season is not a fluke, and he ends up becoming an MVP candidate, Not saying he's going to win the thing, but he is at least a consideration for that MVP award, because that's pretty much the best quarterback. Outstanding rookie year for Jayden Daniels, leading the Commanders all the way to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 1991, making Dallas the last team, or the team with the longest drought of an NFC Championship game in the whole conference. Then second year was injury riddled. Pretty much playing through injury for most of the season, and it really showed on the field, and the Commanders ended up regressing big time. But maybe this wasn't Jayden Daniels' fault. Maybe this was just because maybe he just struggles in the offensive line, a bad complement of a run game and all that. They added another receiver alongside Terry McLaurin, out with Deebo Samuel and with Stephon Diggs. He is a diva, but he is a good receiver. So let's see if the offense can compare to the actually rising stars defensively. Let's see if Dan Quinn and Jayden Daniels can lead the Commanders back to the postseason. In final conference, we got ourselves NFC West. Starting with the Arizona Cardinals. Oh man, this is the team with the toughest schedule in the whole NFL, and they've been one of the worst teams in the entire league. So here we go. Hot take is that Carson Beck takes over Arizona midseason, actually leads them to 3 to 4 wins. This schedule to be absolutely not in favor of Arizona is a massive understatement. I mean, 14 or 15 teams on that schedule literally have a winning record or have been in the playoffs. For them to even get 4 or 5 wins would be a miracle coming from above. But if any team can go through adversity like this, it's Arizona. decent offensive line. Defense actually has some good players. Quarterback, got veteran bridge quarterback at Brissett. Carson Beck could actually take over that midseason if Brissett ends up struggling. And he didn't look that bad during preseason. I mean, the Hall of Fame game, he was actually lights out. Especially with talented guys like Marvin Harrison still has potential, still needs to reach it. Michael Wilson has had some good games and some off games and all that. Trey McBride, the best tight end in the NFL, and a good running back duo in Jeremiah Love and Tyler Algier. The offense definitely is set up for one of those young guys like Carson Beck or Keaton Slovis to succeed. And the defense is pretty good themselves. Or at least they got some very decent players. Maybe this is the time for Carson Beck to shut the haters up. Maybe this is the time for Carson Beck to actually prove that he is a good quarterback. I'm so freaking stupid. Next up, we got the Los Angeles Rams. This Rams roster is absolutely ridiculous. It's not even funny. Okay, I think I finally found it. It took me a while, but my hot take for the Rams is that their offense and defense end up being the best in the NFL, which is a feat that hasn't been matched since 2010. And you want to know what the worst part was about that not happening since 2010? That team didn't even make the playoffs. You know what that team was? 2010 San Diego Chargers. Yes, Phil Rivers was still the quarterback then. Yeah, the Chargers were number 1 offensively and number 1 defensively. But you want to know why they missed the playoffs? Because of bad special teams play. I mean, historically bad. I mean, you have to have the worst special teams of all time to ruin that. And sure enough, it did. I pray it does not happen to the Rams. I mean, special teams have actually been not horrible for the Rams last year, so I don't expect it to really change much. But with how talented this roster is, how much elite players they ended up having, it's going to be hard to stop this Rams team. So let's see if they end up flopping or they actually make good on what this take actually was. Next up, San Francisco 49ers. I was going to make a take about them staying healthy, but that's out the door because of training camp. But my hot take for them is actually this. Brock Purdy actually turns into a Pro Bowl quarterback and actually deviates from being a game manager. On the upward trend, like he's actually a very strong quarterback. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, has actually had probably one of the best careers a Mr. Irrelevant could ever have. Led the 49ers to a couple NFC championships, plenty of playoff victories, even a Super Bowl appearance. Hasn't won the big game, but actually did make the Super Bowl. But I think the main reason that fans keep discrediting for was the good rosters they had. Yeah, they had good rosters, but quite a bit of them get hurt every now and then because of this theory about a substation. I don't know what to believe about this 49ers team anymore, how they get injured so much. I really do hope that Brock Purdy is not added to that list again. He was hurt last year, missed 6 games due to an elbow injury? I can't remember what it was. He has been labeled as a game manager just with a lot of great talent, but I think this is a season where he just says, you know what? Shut up and let me play quarterback to how I feel, and let's see me throw some dime. I still believe in Brock Purdy that he can actually stand out as one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I'm sure the whole world just needs to see that. And he's got Deebo Samuel coming back, so this should be fun. And of course, the final team is the Seattle Seahawks. My hot take for Seattle is that Jadarian Price becomes the new Kenneth Walker in town. Seahawks once again make a complete roster and go back-to-back in Super Bowls for only the second time this decade. Let's be honest, it's hard to go back-to-back. I mean, you gotta have a special team out there or have some great things go your way to be able to go back-to-back. Before the Chiefs did that in Super Bowls 58 and 57, I'm very sure, it was the New England Patriots in Super Bowls 38 and 39 that ended up going back-to-back. And Jadarian Price was the 32nd overall pick, thus being the norm for a Super Bowl championship team. But this was a Notre Dame running back. This was like one of 2 running backs that actually helped Notre Dame turn into an elite team for those couple years that they ended up starting together. And with the speedster Charbonnet, this could be the makings of potentially the next Kenneth Walker. And of course, Jadarian Price had to fill that role, didn't he? He is currently RB2, but I do think his power style will resemble that of Kenneth Walker, or at least get close to that. And they actually have this pretty much the same rushing attack as they did last year. Let's see if Jadarian Price can do it. And of course, that takes us to the end of the hot takes. Whew, that was a lot. NFL regular season starts September 9th. I am probably going to get week 1 game predictions either the 2nd of September or the 9th of September, just before the game. But anyways, that will do it for this episode of Grizzly Talks Football. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give this a big thumbs up. Hit the red subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single one of my videos. This is the Grizzly signing off for now, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace, love, keep the Grizzly vibes with you at all times. Take care.